Hello, hello, hello. Welcome if you're joining the replay. Hey, Nelcha Cross. Hey, Indra. Good to see you. Welcome to my large mug of coffee. Hey, Chris Steve. I miss you. Sorry, I'll try and catch you. Apt. That's a good name. Hey, Tamara. Welcome to the scope. Thank you for sharing. Oh, yes, please do share. That'd be lovely. So we are on, well, we're just following up from yesterday, really. Just in case you're new to me, my name's Joel Young. Morning, Sherry. I love your new profile pic on Facebook. I think I commented on it. Hello, everybody. I'll turn it around. Let's go facial. So, yes, thank you so much for sharing. Christy Age Tippy. Now, is that a new handle for the Christy that I know from before? Good morning. Good morning, AJ. Gallon is God. That's a good one. Blue Hourglass, welcome. Dunn's Kids. It's Sunday afternoon here in the UK. 2 o'clock. My usual scoping time is 2 o'clock. And I generally scope about sort of lots of different ways of being nice to you, of healing and growth and all of these things. I'm the creator custodian of Yo, Mr. Kids. Creator custodian of MPA, which stands for non-personal awareness and is a simple way to stop taking things personally. And over these 3 days, I did one yesterday, I was just sort of sharing a bit about my background. Chipper morning, that's a good one. So I've done sort of a lot of scopes now about kindness, about raising your vibration, and the lovely Indra sort of encouraged me very much, and I'm very grateful she did, to sort of share a bit more about my background. You're not religious. I wouldn't class myself as religious either. I have I guess, my own connection with something greater than myself, and I've got some, I've got my grandfather was a vicar, but I wouldn't consider myself dogmatically religious. I embrace the bits that work for me from all sorts of different philosophies and ideas. And I would always encourage you to do the same if that works for you. So yesterday I was sort of talking about my struggles, and we kind of went through my life story for in terms of the things that I'd faced. Hey Jane, glad to see you here live. And today I wanted to talk about what I'm going to call my search, because out of the struggles that I experienced, it kind of eventually got me onto a path. Hello, how would you pronounce that? Mete? I don't know. But I thought I'd talk a bit about the search that I got onto. Wonderful scope yesterday, really resonated with me. Okay, great. That's the beauty of life. We can pick the best for us. Very true. As long as we get empowered, you have to kind of wake up to what's going on. You have to sort of realise the pain to get the change sometimes. Hey, from Toronto, Adrian, good to see you. I love Toronto, been there several times. I've done workshops there a couple of times, MPA workshops that is, and I've got some good friends there, especially out in, is it Kingstown or something? It's King something or other, a bit further north of Toronto. So I thought I'd just crack on today with sort of carrying on sharing with it and telling you a little about sort of what happened to me or how I came out of all that stuff. Such a release to empower yourself. Yes, it is. So again, I'm a little bit nervous again today for some reason. I said yesterday I have shared a lot of this stuff before. I've taught big crowds around the world and all sorts, and shared various bits. But there's something raw about live video, I think, and something about just tying it all together with you guys. And so I appreciate you being here in support. So let's just walk you through it, shall I? Or don't we all want big community with love? Yes, I certainly feel the love. God, look, with this light above, it's like I've got this sort of massive light behind me. The sun is behind me. Okay, so yesterday I talked about some of the main themes of my struggles in life. So there was neglect, there was sensitivity, there was sort of the demasculation, remasculation, and then the sexuality. You are the sun, honey. Yes, and you are the moon. So true. So I think it's, again, one of the things I said yesterday, which I think is really bears saying again, is I don't think that my story is particularly special. I mean, there's always, all of us have real unique experiences which are special in their own right. We're all special because we are who we are. But I think in what I've experienced is very classic for people who have, a shitty childhood or have struggles in their life. And then something calls them to kind of wake up and question it and go a bit deeper. And I think it's very common for people to go on a search. So what I mean by the search is that, with all of that pain, and I talked about emptiness yesterday as well, often we go looking for ways to dull the pain, to fix the pain, to get rid of the pain, and all of these things. And I talked yesterday about the need to face the pain, but often we do a lot of things before that. So I said yesterday about sort of with the experience of the sort of sexual abuse and then that sort of sense of, being told and sister, there was a total shutdown. And so I was thinking about this morning about, what did that look like for me? I suppose I became very withdrawn, and one of my escapes, because that's a common thing, isn't it, that we try and escape the pain. So I threw myself into fantasy war games. So I used to play Dungeons and Dragons, and I would literally play it all the time. I didn't do any academic work because of it. I'd always been a musician, well, since I was 8, so music has always been there. But that was definitely a way to kind of numb myself out for an extended period. And one thing I thought about is that it caused me to fail my A levels. Apart from one, I got one, and I went to college and I continued to sort of just lots of other stuff. There was drugs, there was drink, there was very hedonistic. I wouldn't turn up to lectures, and basically I kept failing academically. And I realised later that part of that was because there was a lot of anger inside me about my childhood experience. And when you suppress it, when you sort of play the nice guy, but really inside there's all this rage, it tends to come out. And often it can come out as like a passive or a silent fuck you. And I think because my parents were quite my sister was like a golden girl. She sort of aced everything, went to Cambridge, got a law degree, all of these things. And it was kind of held, this academic success was held as a badge of, being somebody. And I think what I really did, if I look back, is I did all that stuff, went mad, as a kind of a silent fuck you to them. And I've turned out all right, so it wasn't that big of a deal. So I used sort of fantasy, I used drugs, I used drink. I had a very, very unhealthy relationship with alcohol for a period of time, and then I went for the marriage thing, because that's what you do: get a job, get married, have a kid. That's going for normality, right? You have to try and stick the normality of it on there. So those are the things that I did, but then I kind of came to a place where you lost me. I noticed the numbers have just dropped off enormously, so there's a bit of a loss going on. Loss, it's one of my things. Well, thanks for coming back, Christy. That's good. So I shall march on back now. This happened yesterday. We had that the signal popped out, so I saw the numbers go down. There's 2 people live, so I'm like, oh, am I really boring you all? It's funny because I said to Inda when she was sort of encouraging me to do this, I said, oh, well, my story is very boring. There's some bits which I think are interesting, but for the most part it's like, well, okay. Anyway, I shall soldier on. Some of us are here, but you can't see us. Oh, okay, 90 viewers. Oh, okay. I'm looking at 3 on my screen, so you never know. I think I'm talking to 3 people here. Not that it matters. I'll just get it out anyway. So so the search then kind of came into more of the spiritual realm. I think I'd always had a sense of there was something more to life. I said to you yesterday about there's a sensitivity to energies. When I was 5 years old, I had a near-death experience, nearly drowned, and I often say I saw lights and wings at that point. I'd have this sense of, you're not done yet. So it was always kind of around. When I was 18, I decided to read tarot cards, and I'm going to confess this one. My reason My reason that I told myself in my conscious mind that why I was going to read tarot cards is because it would get me laid. Because remember, I was this demasculated, shy boy, and all the girls would say, "Oh, you're so sweet, you're so sweet," and I was like, "I don't want to be sweet, I want to be shagged," you know. So very spiritual reason for reading tarot cards is I thought it would get me laid. Which it didn't, of course, because they just thought I was ever so much more sweeter. But there we go. But interesting things did happen when I picked up the tarot cards, and in a way, a lot of those sensitivities began to come back. I noticed that I was able to read the cards. The cards began to speak to me, and all these kind of things started to switch on. Nevertheless, I kind of put that in a box to one side, so to speak. I just got on with the normal doing a job, or all these kind of things. Open channels, yeah, it did. That and the acid. I'll say one thing for acid: it tells you that what you think you see as solid is not. So that, the acid, and everything else. So I'd had the kind of rock star lifestyle, and I'd done all that stuff. But then the thing that really, I guess, got me back on a deeper path was my first wife got sick. And she had what I like to call, as she's my ex-wife, face ache. But really, no, to be serious, she had temporomandibular jaw joint disorder, a lot of pain in lockjaw and things like that. And my approach, even though I sort of had those tarot cards and stuff, I very much had that upbringing. My dad's kind of in the medical industry. And it was like, well, it's your body, you go get fixed with a medical person. We went along and we had so many experiences of the medical profession either not knowing what the heck was going on because they didn't know about TMJ back then. This is like early 90s. And they would also say, "Oh, go away, silly girl, it's all in your head." And that kind of prompted us to go looking for alternative approaches. That's where we came across, there's a book by Barbara Ann Brennan called Hands of Light, which is about spiritual healing and seeing auras and stuff. There was Louise Hay when she sort of first came around. And we got into all those things that were kind of around sort of the end of the 80s, early 90s. And started to look in that form. Now, I was very, very resistant to this. And it's often the case when you're on your path, you can start with resistance. So I was really... I really thought it was bonkers, and I was dragged along to things really. But I wanted to support my wife because that you have to take care and all those kind of things. But really, what happened was the main thing that sounds like David Icke. I don't think it does sound like David Icke. I'm not talking about lizards or anything, but there you go. Your choice to have your perception of what I'm saying, and if it doesn't resonate, just piss off. It's very simple. Oh, he's cool. All right, I'll give you that. Okay, so. So what was I saying? You like it, okay. I wasn't sure because your handle's like a string of numbers and a lot of trolls come along with loads of numbers. So I was a little suspicious of you for a moment there. I'm not such a fan of David Icke myself, but there you go. It's horses for courses. So, yeah, where was I? So the thing that really shifted me... Okay, good. Then you're so welcome. You're so welcome. Give us your name then. Just throw your name up. It's always nice to have my assumptions dashed, especially in a positive way. Tell us your name. There's a bunch of people here. Johnny B. Welcome, Johnny. It's good to have you on my scope. So I'm talking about from the struggles that I had in my life and how I've come through them and my search to find some way to do something about it. So I've done lots of these things, and then the thing that shifted me really was I went along to actually there's a woman called Brandon Bays. Who has a process called The Journey, which is a very emotionally focused journey, very emotionally focused process. And a leaflet from somewhere, we've gone to a mind, body, spirit for us, a leaflet came through our door, landed on the floor, it had this black and white, just photocopied, this is like early days, right, before the internet and everything. And it had a picture of what looked like Crystal Carrington from Dynasty on it, and that's Brandon. And I looked at it and I went to my wife at the time. I said, "You need this." Classic, right? This will be really good. Maybe it can heal your jaw and all those things. And she's like, "Okay, well, we had no money at the time at all." So we were like, "Okay, well, see if we can go." We phoned up, got a discount. And I went along. I said, "Well, I'll come along. I'm not really interested, but I'll go along anyway. And that first weekend was my first experience of really facing emotions, of really going inside. And part of it is a dialogical part where you have a conversation with your parents. I howled my eyes out. I dug up some shit from the past. I touched into a deep part of myself that I hadn't been there for a long time. And it really started a number of things. Firstly, my wife hated the woman, and had actually it actually worked. That was one of the problems, but it meant it changed her identity. Is my perspective of what's happening. So we kind of already started to split our separate ways. Whereas I thought, this is something I love it. I had a sense that there was something amazing for me there, that was going to change my life, and it did. So I kept going back. I became a trainer. Years later, I began to teach. I was one of the first 3 people that were asked to teach her work around the world, and I've taught it all across the States, in the Middle East, all over Europe, and all these things. And it's been an amazing experience. And it very much really focuses on going into the emotional core of whatever you're facing, and it's also got a great dialogical, forgiveness-focused process within it as well. So, and that's been something that I became kind of the journey golden boy over about 12 years, and really went for it. And I absolutely will credit the journey work for helping me become emotionally awake, emotionally fluent, and definitely facing a lot of that shit that I've talked about yesterday. That's really good. But one of the things about it was that they often asked me to come and work for them officially. I used to just sort of be contracted for teaching or for training at the advanced workshops and things. But I never quite jumped in. It never felt quite right. Because in a way it was some other structure. And I recognise now the need for a structure for me to, a structure is like a cocoon. If you're going to transform, sometimes you need an external structure to use as a transformational vehicle. And that's definitely what it was. But I used to also explore other things. So I had a period where I was teaching a 5-part awakening training with my sister, my elder sister, and also with a friend of mine from the States. Both of them were trained by Barbara Brennan. They're both healers, and we were doing a 5-part awakening work. And she was a trance channel, which is a very interesting experience. She would disappear. What she called the voice comes in. And it was, I wish I was that clever. You're clever, whatever way you're clever, you are clever, Johnny. That's a fundamental belief, is that we all have our genius, and often it's about getting out of what other people say it should be and finding what it naturally is, and then honouring it, because mostly your genius, sir, will be something you take for granted as obvious and wonder why nobody else can do it. Amen to that. So she was a trance channel, so I used to help her to leave the body, used to guide it. We would teach workshops together. And we did loads of crazy stuff back again. This is sort of around 2000-ish. So we would go down, crop circle chasing. We would open portals, and I did all my shamanic training with Vicky. So we would go and do deer melds and all of that stuff. And I guess one of the things if I take away from the journey, emotional fluency, what I take away from that time with all of that shamanic stuff is that beingness is in everything. There's spirits, how one of the ways that I relate to Indra, and she talks about fairies and things, it's like I can really feel all of the energy spirits in the earth, and that period was very much about connecting to the sort of shamanic sense within myself. And also a lot of what developed in me at that time was, from the tarot reading, I sort of skipped a whole bit, but many of those sort of higher sense functions switched on, so within that period I get very clear visions of auras, and in the work I would work very much with the aura and with the beings that are around, and that was very much part of my life at that time. The other thing that sort of really helped me through those times is Byron Katie. I think I mentioned her yesterday. So the emotional work from the journey, the kind of beingness work from the shamanic work and the unity of consciousness, which is what we called it. And then Byron Katie really made a difference, especially if I took to the remasculation. That was where I fell in love with men again, and myself as a man again. I went to the school for the work. Byron Katie does the work of Byron Katie. It's 4 simple questions and a turnaround. It definitely inspired me as the simplicity of things, and it helped me learn to really question my thoughts. And I spent a lot of time really questioning even the fundamental thoughts that I had about reality. I was very pleased I got to work with her. I helped her come over to the UK on a couple of occasions and worked as staff and running the events there. And to this day, I think I don't have a guru, but if I did, then one of the people that's really alive in my heart is Byron Katie. And so all of these things were really powerful ways to sort of to nurture me through spirituality and all of these things. A part of teaching the journey, by the way, was offering satsang, and I had a long period also of teaching satsang. So I don't know if you've seen, any of you saw the scope where it was actually, I think it was on your scope, Indra, I think, where you were talking about being the guru. Yeah, I see her in you. Yeah, she's very alive in me. Katie is. So we were talking about being the guru. And I said on that one that I had a period of offering satsang. So satsang is like a very spiritual tradition. It's inquiry. It's pointing to the really vast aspects of self, the nothingness, the everythingness, the beingness. I had a long period of doing that, dark to light. Yeah. So, but all of these things. This is I guess the. Oh, there's one other bit. I've just seen my note here. I also had a massive purification phase, which I think is part of it. So I had a phase I was vegan. I've vegetarian for 10 years, vegan for a year. I drank no alcohol for 7 years. You know, all of that really kind of, I'm going to be pure and spiritual thing. And I was striving for enlightenment and all of those things that you do. But all of this, if I look back now, even all of that wonderful mess, yeah. Even all of that wonderful awakening stuff, which I would not trade for anything, which has had such an impact on my life. In a way, it's all the search. It's always looking to try and be something. Or for me, I guess it was aspirational. But in the process, we find ourselves exactly. And the thing I suppose I've come to know is I am myself, regardless. That's why that term, wonderful mess, is the embracing of humanity. And certainly tomorrow I'm going to talk about non-personal awareness and how that's really come to me. But what I realise is all of those things, wonderful as they were expressions of somebody else. And for some people, their natural line, their purpose is to come in to be if you like, a cog in the wheel of something bigger, and that's a beautiful thing. There's no judgment, but that's not me. I'm someone who is a creative. I'm someone if you know numerology, I'm an 11 energy, which is like a, boom. I've got Aries and fire up the wazoo. So it was always going to be something that was generated or came through me directly. So much as all of those things certainly have deeply informed who I am today, I believe soul picks the life for karmic reasons up the wazoo. Yeah, the soul perspective, I don't know if you heard me talk about that in a recent scope, but from my perspective, the soul perspective is about growth and lessons over time, including karma. I often look at the soul and go, well, the soul, it's like, oh yeah, let's chuck a few lives at this one. And it's like very much a soul. That's a book title, Up the Wazoo without awakening. Without a guru. How about that? Up the wazoo without a guru. I like that one. Oh, coffee is good. So what else do I need to say? I think the point I wanted to make today was just that people can get very het up about finding their purpose, and I've got my calling in a way now. It's very clear to me, and we're going to talk about that in more detail tomorrow and how that specifically came about. But people say, oh, it's easy for you, you've got MPA, you know what you're doing. But I've got like 20 years of trying things out. I've had different companies, a Truth Company, which is still my, still one of my emails. I've had Thought Paramedics, I've had, UCI, Unity of Consciousness International, all of these things that I did, and all of these have been really informative, and they brought me to the place where I was ready. So sometimes you have to go through 20 years of awakening and training school in life, do all the workshops, do the things that call you, but don't be too concerned about finding your distinct purpose, because there's a way that it will find you, and that's exactly what happened to me, which I'm going to talk about tomorrow. But hopefully that gives you more of an insight into kind of my background and where I've come from and the things I've done. If you've got any questions, because I feel like I've stumbled through it a bit today, but there you go. That resonates so much. Great. So feel free to ask me anything about my experience or any offers, because I've been terrible with the comments today. It took me a while to find those emojis. Oh my goodness. Good. Crikey, listen, it's time. It's 11:30. Hey, Sterren from the Netherlands. So I'll tell you what, we're coming to the end. It's 30:30. The person saying love them there, Silent Manindra, please follow her. She's my favourite scoper, and she's amazing. She's been the inspiration for me scoping more. She's been the inspiration for me doing this particular expose. Oh, how old were you when you went through that training? Okay, which training are you talking about? Are you talking about the journey training? So the journey was around 24, 25. And then when I travelled, so I went to Byron Katie 2004, Unity of Consciousness International, we set up in 2001. I was travelling, teaching the journey between 2005 and 2008. I started with them in 1995, and I worked with them a lot through that period. So a lot of years. MPA was born in 2007. I'll talk about that tomorrow. And I was doing satsangs probably between 2007 and 2009. I think I stopped in 2009 or 2010. So yeah, there's been a lot happened. A lot going on. So you've got a sense of, thank you, Joel, for that. What you're doing inspired. Thank you. You're busy. Yeah, being a busy boy. Enjoy wherever we are at the moment, allowing self to dual watch tennis and scopes today. Married. Okay, you're getting personal. Perfect. Married twice. So my first wife, with whom I have my amazing daughter Stella, who's now going to turn 20 in September. I married again in 2007. It was 777. I married her, and that ended badly. I might talk about that one day. Indra and I have been talking about doing some specific topics. I'm not even going to say what they are, but that might be a place to bring in what happened at the end of that marriage. We'll see. A lovely Stella. She's amazing. She's truly an amazing individual. She's at university now, so yeah, so wonderful. So yeah, 2 marriages, and and you never know. I'm open to a third. Okay, talking about you, Will. Finding parallels with my life. Good. So, lol. So we're at 2:30, and I'm up for jumping on to Indra's scope. And I'm going to embarrass myself. I almost had a double entendre there. Oh my goodness me. So thanks for listening to my story. If you haven't shared it yet, do share it now before I hop off. If you think that this will sort of resonate with people, that would be great to have the shares. I often forget to ask that. Follow and come and jump over. I've no idea what Indra's doing today on her scope, but they're always amazing, and she always gives amazing value. So I big up Indra, and I will see you there, because I always come on and comment and support her as she does that. Otherwise, big hugs to all of you. Oh, value for cash. That's right. I want to put a donate button on your site, Indra. So we talked about this, so people can sort of really support you, because you do give so much value. So one final thing I'm going to ask of you guys is, my mum's partner is in a critical condition in hospital at the moment. I'm not sure where he's at. They're operating on him right now. So please ask for your love and prayers to go to Mike, my mum's partner of nearly 20 years. Please send him love and blessings, and ask the angels to help him to pull through. Thanks, guys. Thanks for being here. I will see you tomorrow at 2 o'clock, and I'll see you if you're joining me with Indra on the scope. Hop across, and I'll see you there. See you guys.